Today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you guys about something that could bring trillions of dollars onto the XRP ledger. We are going to be diving over to a recent interview that I was lucky enough to conduct with Graham Rodford, the CEO and co-founder of Archax, a company that is probably the furthest ahead in regards to the tokenization of real-world assets. They have already, in fact, tokenized the likes of BlackRock's ICS fund and brought that on-chain, and, of course, Aberdeen's money market fund. And we're going to be talking about money market funds specifically in relation to being brought on-chain and actually used for payments by perhaps the likes of Ripple, which are a real leader when it comes to distributed ledger payment systems. And the size of the money market fund market sits today just in the United States between 6.6 trillion, and a tokenization of this, which is very much inevitable at this point, and the onboarding of money market funds to be used for payments through XRP, I think is a potential reality. And actually, Graham Rodford, who didn't say that XRP and Ripple were specifically going to do this, but he did say it was one thing he found interesting and is exploring potentially with Ripple. And of course, their XRPL. So we're going to be diving into it all in this video. This is an exclusive, guys. Nobody else has this interview because, of course, it was us that conducted it. We will leave a link to the full interview in the description, so do go and check that out. Graham is a super intelligent guy. It's an absolute pleasure to have him on the show, and I hope to do lots more with him. But we were very keen to discuss, of course, what was recently announced. And this was announced by Archax. So Archax and Ripple announce an extension to our existing collaboration, expected to bring hundreds of millions of dollars of tokenized real-world assets onto XRPL over the coming years. And I honestly believe Archax are massively downplaying this. Hundreds of millions of dollars. I think, ladies and gentlemen, it's potentially going to be hundreds of billions, if not trillions in the future. Archax are, in my opinion, really ahead of the game when it comes to the tokenization of things. In fact, we already see Archax tokenizing BlackRock's ICS US Treasury Money Market Fund. We also see them tokenizing Aberdeen's, which is the largest hedge fund the largest fund manager within the UK, their money market fund, their Sterling Lux Money Market Fund. The interesting thing here as well is that BlackRock is the largest shareholder of Aberdeen. Aberdeen were one of the biggest investors in Archax. So there's the kind of two largest hedge fund managers in both the UK and the US that are some of the biggest backers, certainly Aberdeen, of Archax. And of course, recently they onboarded Ripple to potentially, in my opinion, and this is something that Graham kind of didn't go into too much detail about, but certainly alluded to potentially use these money market funds that have been tokenized for settlements, for payments. And this is the really interesting and groundbreaking thing with what Ripple are doing, is that they are actually reimagining payments as we know them and the kind of financial system. And I honestly believe that Ripple and XRP are going to play a central role in the kind of financial world of tomorrow. I think the last video we did for XRP, we looked at Augustin Carlson, who is the head of the BIS, talking about the Finternet, this kind of internet of value that, of course, distributed ledgers are going to enable. And when we say there could be trillions of dollars coming on board, within the United States alone, so that this number is far bigger globally, just the use case of tokenizing money market funds stands to potentially be tokenized $6.4 trillion. This is what I mean. And we'll dive over to the clip of Graham in just a second. If there is a way that we can facilitate money market funds, and there's a number of reasons why you would do this, being used with or as a replacement to cash, this could literally bring trillions of dollars through XRP and its ledger if it's the enabling factor to do this. And this is just one thing that I think XRP is potentially going to be used for. You know, we of course know about the Ripple stablecoin announcement, which we think is absolutely huge. Of course, money market funds. I want to go back to that sort of Wall Street Journal, or I can't remember quite where the article was from, where they spoke about actually how the US can solve its kind of debt problem with the uses of digital ledgers through stablecoin issuance that have to buy up the debt, basically. That's also applicable to money market funds, because a lot of money market funds basically are debt funds, if you will. So I think this is really, really interesting. And the fact that Ripple are positioned in the manner that they are, and there's an Archax link here, and we recently got lucky enough to interview Graham Rodford from Archax, I think is definitely worth exploring. So what I want to do just very quickly is take a look at what Archax actually are. So Archax are the first UK registered crypto exchange. They do a number of things. So they're actually regulated, one of the few that are regulated. They integrate a number of different blockchains like Hedera, Algorand, and of course XRP. But I think the use case for XRP, and Graham kind of alludes to this, isn't so much to do the actual tokenization, but to be the vehicle that the tokenized assets are moved on, if that makes sense. Because, and this is how I've always envisioned XRP, and this is what it's always designed to be the bridge asset. And I honestly think you're going to see trillions of dollars of volume going through that. And of course, this would very much align with, and the turning on of XRP would very much align with the kind of 2017-esque spike that we're looking for. You're in a very similar spot, ladies and gentlemen, to what you were here before you had a major run. I don't think it's too long, and that's why we continue to cover XRP and, of course, Ripple. So now that we've sort of covered things a little bit more broadly, let's dive into this clip of Graham, of course, talking about the fact that they're working with Ripple. Obviously, they use Metaco, and also talking about this interesting concept of actually potentially utilizing money market funds, which we know Archax are leading in regards to the tokenization of, on XRP for payments, as XRP are a kind of global payment leader
as well. And then the recent announcement with Ripple, again, really excited about it. We've been chatting to those guys for 4 years. We use Metaco, which was recently bought by Ripple. We've got a bit of a partnership there already. And again, the chain is, fast, low transaction, a bit different to other chains in that it doesn't really have the smart contract usage so much, but has a lot built into the base layer, if you like, but has a lot of the controls and functions that we like around permissionings and transferring transactions as well. So, a lot of the times we're trying to have an arsenal of things that people can use. I don't know where we'll end up overall. I suspect you'll see certain chains being used for certain types of instruments in the future. That would be my instinct. But there's a lot of new chains being introduced all the time, but we're starting to see some be used more and more for transactions.
Very interesting. So Ripple was a recent partnership. The interesting thing I think about Ripple also is they already have a lot of connections within the kind of traditional world that may bring you guys to a similar point, if that makes sense. Is that something that you considered, or is there any kind of workings with some of their other partners?
Yeah. I mean, with everyone we work with, there is. I think I said it the other day to someone, like the Ripple team are all fantastic to work with anyway. And that means a lot to me that you can kind of collaborate with people, and their business is kind of, and I forget the names of all the parts, but it's kind of split into two in my mind. There's the payments bit and the other bit. And what I see happening in financial markets right now is this question about what you can use for payments coming up a bit more, because ordinarily we would use cash to pay for things. We might send cash via bank accounts, but if we were settling any form of financial transactions, we'd use cash. And what we've seen with the tokenization of money market funds, starting with stable coins, like what is it, 130, 150 billion, something like that. Those guys are earning interest on other people's money, but it's being used for such a lot of transactions. Actually, people are starting to pay attention now. I think more volume went through Tether than Visa the other month. So These things are starting to become important. And then I think some of the people that run money market funds are kind of going, oh, hang on a second. If I put my money market fund on chain, I can be used for transactions, much like stable coins, but actually let the user keep some of their yield. And I get quite interested around that point. This idea that why would you have cash? Why would you take bank risk and have something which is usually lower yielding and not even paying you base rate for a standard bank account? If I could be holding a money market fund and whoever would accept it as some form of payment. Now there's a lot of regulation that exists around whether this is possible or not. There's a lot of friction doing AML KYC on everyone that holds a security. But this idea that it can be used for payment. So one of the attractions of Ripple is, they've kind of majored on payments for a long time. So just seeing if there's a way that we can integrate payments on XRPO into their payment network is pretty interesting for me.
Absolutely huge, the potential for that. And of course, it kind of reimagines kind of cash itself and how cash as a vehicle is typically held and custodied. And actually, the forms of cash that we can use in everyday life. We're moving away from the traditional kind of payment rails to a more inclusive, from a thing that we use for payment point of view. And I think Ripple are going to be at the forefront of that. And I think Archax are as well. Of course, Graham didn't specifically say this is absolutely going to happen or this is going to be a thing, but it's certainly something that he's thinking about, which is huge. And as he mentioned, they've been sort of talking and, going back and forth with Ripple for the past 4 years. And of course, we know that Ripple also have their stablecoin. Stablecoin business is just unbelievable. It's one of, it's got to be one of the greatest businesses of all times. Ripple are about to, I believe, gain the lion's share of that business through being a US-enabled company and furthering the US's role across the world. But really what this video is about was that interview that I conducted with Graham. There's a link in the description to the full interview. Share it around, guys. Feel free to clip it, by the way. Just give me, obviously, put a link to the actual full interview in the comment section for those of you other XRP content creators out there. That's it from me, ladies and gents. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Hang in there, XRP holders. The reason we're highlighting XRP as zealously as we are at the moment is because there is a technical significance to where it's currently at. The individual from the German Stock Exchange very much looking at the same thing that we're looking at, and I do think that day will come. That's it from me, ladies and gents. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.